and this is Assessment 2, Launching a Virtual Team for MGT584, Leadership in Teams. So the value of this is 40%, which is the most amount for all of your assessments. It's due on the 11th of August, so you need to really get started onto it as soon as you actually start the subject, because the time will go around very quickly. It's 3,000 words as well. It's an individual piece of work, okay, but it deals with the early stages of your developing virtual team and focuses your attention to relevant theory to help interpret and shape your interactions. That's with your team. It's designed to provide you with a strong theoretical foundation to help you design, launch and build your virtual team. So it's really important that you actually look at the theory, look at the readings in the subject, read more widely, to actually start to actually work out what the theoretical underpinning is for how you are going to practice in your virtual team. So we're expecting you to support your arguments and insights with theory and literature, as I just said, from the subject and more widely. So your task is to prepare a report discussing key factors to consider in designing and launching a virtual team. So you should focus your attention on the following 4 areas and use these as headings to structure the body of your report, and I'll talk about the format of the report as well. So the first thing is factors considering building a team, the role and responsibilities, task role, relationship roles and individual roles. Factors that influence collaboration in teams. So this is really important. This underpins the whole subject, because we're really looking at collaborative and collective approaches to leadership, working in teams. Okay, so really a collaboration is a key piece here. Launching a team, how do we launch the team? And in your discussion of each of those 4 areas above, you should comment on how these issues were addressed in your own virtual team. So you're getting started early, you're getting to meet with your virtual team. How are these issues being addressed in your own virtual team? And so from just the very beginning of how it's going, what's working well and what has proved to be challenging? Okay, and what needed to be modified to account for the virtual nature of the team? So you might have had to use different processes, you might have had to work at night, early in the morning, you might have decided to ditch the Adobe Connect room to connect through Skype or Zoom, whatever. The other thing is too, when you go back, you obviously the 4 different types that you identify, that will have an impact as well. Okay. So the final thing you need to do is a reflection. Now this is a personal reflection, and we want you to reflect on your experiences to date in the team and your experiences in the team and how this is contributing to your understanding of leadership in teams. Your reflection on your experiences should not be a repeat of the description analysis in your other 4 sections, but rather an overview of your learning and how you can use this information in your own leadership and team experiences. Okay? We really try to foster a reflective practice. Reflective practitioners are much more effective practitioners. You know, what worked well, what didn't work well, what could I do differently, reflecting, that's after an event, reflecting in the moment, what am I doing, how am I managing my body language, all of those things. Am I listening, paying attention to yourself? So the reflection and the reflective practitioner is about working on self. It's about self-leadership so that you can actually then lead others. And for each of these areas outlined above, your discussion must be informed by relevant theory, okay? So always underpin it by theory. It's not just a narrative account. It's not just a stream of consciousness about what you've seen and what you've heard. It's actually has to be underpinned by what you're learning in the subject. You should supplement this material to add depth to your discussion with a minimum of 5 academic articles. So in other words, you're required to read beyond the subject. Now some people don't achieve that. However, it's important that you try to, okay? And it says a minimum of 5 academic articles. So that means for 3,000 words, that's light on. I would be looking at least 8, and 12 would really cut it more, okay? So the 5 academic articles are really a very, very minimum, and if you only put 5 academic articles in, you'd be lucky to get more than a credit, maybe a pass, okay? So each of, and why they've said 5 is because there's 5 sections. So presentation, presented as a Word document, and I say as a Word document because it's so much easier for me to mark. When you send a PDF, I cannot mark grammatical errors, typographical errors. I can't mark in text and say, well, this is really good, this actual, what you've put in here, you know, provide you with comments. Have you thought about this? You know, this is a very sound introduction, good use of theory, etc. It's very hard for me to do that. So you need to have a title page, an executive summary, which is approximately 400 words. So this is a very important section of a report. It's designed to stand alone for those who will not want to read the full report. So you look at that at a glance, it might be 1 page or less, you understand what's in the report. It has the report's context, purpose, key findings, conclusions and recommendations. Please note the difference between an executive summary and an introduction. So we'll talk about the introduction. Then you have a table of contents. This should be on a separate page and section of the report with page numbers. So your report needs to have, every page needs to be numbered. Introduction, which is about 150 words. This section sets the scene for the report, and in this case your introduction should include brief background information, including some details of your team. So a bit of context of your team, the purpose of your report, and a brief outline of what will be covered in the report. So planning and launching a virtual team. So this is 1,800 to 2,000 words. Now these are only guidelines, these words, okay? It's up to you to actually work out exactly how many words you need to put in. But they're pretty good guidelines. So the first thing is first section, factors to consider in setting up a team, roles and responsibilities in teams, factors influencing collaboration, and launching the team. They're the headings. You don't have to have those headings, but they reflect the tasks. So some headings that reflect the tasks are sought, because it's also easier for me to mark as well, and for me to follow, and it's easier for you to follow a logical sequence. You may want to use tables within this section to concisely convey information and illustrate particular issues. Now, I don't count tables in the word count. If you have appendices, so appendices, reference lists, and title pages and table of contents aren't included, and sometimes I don't include the executive summary. Depends on how you're tracking with your words. And then the fifth thing is your personal reflection, which is around 700 words. Might be 500, whatever. This section serves as an inclusion for your report right in the first person. Okay, so always write these things in the first person. It's very important because, as I said before, it's about self-leadership. And there are resources about reflection under the resources for assessment too. And then a reference list in the APA style. And look at the referencing guide to make sure you follow the APA style. So marking criteria. Marking criteria are really, really important. So marking criteria really will help you get the mark that you're seeking. And I hope you're all seeking a distinction or a high distinction. So look at each of these criteria. So the first one, we'll just do one. The discussion of factors to consider in preparation and launch of team, drawing on relevant literature on teams. So that's worth 30%. So to get a high distinction, it'd have to be outstanding, insightful and sophisticated discussion of factors in preparation and launch of team based on a wide range of sources. Similarly, for distinction, you need a wide range of sources. For a credit, it's more of a solid discussion. For a pass, it's limited but adequate discussion of the factors discussion's inadequate for a fail, or you mightn't have even completed the task. The next one is critical evaluation of activity in virtual teams. So critically evaluating is meanings that you can compare and contrast theories, literature. You look at things in different ways. You critique things. So it's not about just summarising and describing. If you're going to summarise and describe, you'll get a credit or lower. It's really about critically engaging with the literature and critically engaging with what you've seen to actually look at what worked, what didn't work, all of those things. So really looking underneath at those underlying things as well. The reflection, and I haven't put this in here properly, so I do apologise. So go back to the rubric to look at the reflection. It obviously hasn't flowed over to fail, but the first one there, insightful discussion of key learning, is under the high distinction, etc., etc. Then referencing. To get a high distinction, your referencing has to be accurate. No typos, no grammatical errors, good grammar, good communication, a topic sentence starts a paragraph. All of those things are so very much important. Okay, you need to be accurate. Similarly, for a distinction, very, very few inaccuracies. So the requirements. Please submit this, as I said, through East as a Word document. For Masters of Business Leadership students, we require you to set up a CSU ThinkSpace. So please do that. If you haven't already studied and you're just starting out in the Master of Business Leadership, you can contact me and I can support you to do that. You need to provide the URL and password to this on the cover page of your assessment. And so each of these assessments will also be loaded up to your CSU ThinkSpace. I check all assessments through Turnitin for plagiarism. I don't mark in Turnitin though. You can go to Turnitin and you can check your assessments. That's assessment 2 and 4 for plagiarism. The class enrolment, and it is spelt with 2 L's by Turnitin. Key is MGT584 and the ID is 2134536. This is also contained underneath the task, underneath assessment 2 link, and it's also in the subject outline. Okay. So if you have any questions about this assessment, post them to the assessment forum first. Okay, because then I can respond to them, and that's for benefit for everyone. However, if you feel a little bit shy or whatever at first and you don't want to do that, or it's a much more individual thing, email me is always the best because I can respond to you very quickly, and if it's in writing it's easier for me to respond. Or phone me. Now my phone consultation hours are 10 till 12 on Mondays and on Thursday afternoons from 3 till 5. But the last Thursday of July and the first Thursday in August I won't be around. Okay, so I wish you luck in this assessment. It is quite a chunky assessment, so I recommend you get started pretty soon. Now I just have to work out